Hi y'all, my name is Daisy Owen. I was a senior in 2020 and I did Congress debate. So Congress is a lot different from all the other kinds of debate, and those are like one-on-one or two-on-two debates. Congress is 1 versus 15. You're 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1. Because there's so many people in the room, you're not going to speak as much as you would in a different kind of event. Somebody who's impatient like myself, it was pretty hard to wrap my mind around, but once I tried it, I definitely was okay with it because it is kind of like a little battle in there. And so I'll explain that and how everybody gets a chance to speak in a little bit. So first I'm going to explain the layout of the room. You walk in, you get these little nameplates, and everybody in the room is either referred to as senator or representative. So you'll get a little nameplate and I'll say Representative Owen, Representative Albee, Representative Smith, something like that. So you'll just sit wherever usually, and the judges will be in the front. And in Congress, you usually have 2 judges, a parliamentarian, and a PO. A PO stands for presiding officer. So your 2 judges are the point recorders. They're the ones that give you your scores. And you get scores on a scale from 0 to 6. So the 6 means it's great, 0 means you didn't even speak at all. But I've never seen anyone get a 0, so you probably won't have to worry about that. The parliamentarian, they also score you and they rank you, but they don't rank you on your speeches really. They rank your etiquette throughout the round. So if you were listening, if you were asking lots of questions, if you weren't dozing off and like playing a game on your iPad, if you were being attentive, that will definitely boost your ranking in the parliamentarian's eyes. The presiding officer is actually a student that walked in the same time as you with the Congress. They just went to be a Congress debate and they ran to be the presiding officer. And how that works is before the round, presiding officers, whoever wants to be at, you'll run, and what they do is they control the round. They have a gavel usually, and they'll make sure that you don't go over your time limit to speak. They'll make sure that questions are like respectful and fair. They'll make sure that everything's kind of handled in the right way.
So here I have drawn a very detailed picture of what the judge's stand might look like, with the PO in the middle with his gavel and his little nameplate, and then the point recorders on the right and the parley on the left.
I would definitely recommend to try to be presiding officer as much as you can, because it actually can help you, as you can actually go to nationals for being presiding officer if you're good enough. And it's a really good way to get experience. You can win gavels, you can win swords. Ask Colette Lawler, she's going to be a sophomore next year, or this year, whenever you watch it, I don't know. She has a big sword, ask her about it. Pretty dope. Have to give any of your speeches if you're a presiding officer. And you can still place. I think the highest I've seen someone get from presiding officer was 2nd place, which is crazy. So I definitely recommend trying that out. So how the round works is, instead of getting like 8-minute times to give your speeches like the other kinds of debate do, you get 3 minutes to give your speech. You'll get about 2 to 1 minute of questioning time after you give your speech. And you'll give your speech on something called a bill. And a bill is just like in the government, like a law. So it's something that they want to make into a law, but it hasn't been there yet. So something like a bill to ban businesses from burning their clothing. So every school will write a few, and usually about 10 to 15 get put into the docket for a tournament. And a docket is just literally like a pack of the papers with the bills on them. Each tournament will usually mix them around and like give them different order, but you're going to be debating kind of the same kind of issues. And the sections usually are different things. The first one's an overview, the last one's like when it'll be implemented, and there's some other things in between. Tripe will definitely teach you how to write your bills, but these are a few. So you can either go AF or neg. AF means you're for the bill and neg means you're against the bill. There is this thing called authorships in Congress. So instead of just being AF or neg, if your school wrote the bill, you have a chance to give an authorship speech. What happens is they'll go bill to bill to bill. So they'll have some speeches, usually they last an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours of each bill. And the first speech of that bill, they offer it to the person who wrote it, or anybody from the school that wrote it. And that's a really great way to get a speech in, because there's 15 other people in the room. You might not be able to get a speech in all the time. So that's a very, very great strategic way to make sure you can get a nice speech. So usually that's a pre-prepared speech. I like to think of it as 2 different kinds of speeches. There's the canned speech, and there's kind of like the extemporaneous speech. So I'm gonna put a picture here of what my canned speeches look like, and these are like my authorships. Like they're word for word what I would say, but I would say them so much that I wouldn't need to read and look down the whole time. I'd be able to kind of look up, look down, look up, look down. And those are the only kinds that judges accept to be okay to be canned speeches. The rest, they usually want, after the first AF or first neg, they want everybody to make it a little bit more extemporaneous, and they want you to refute the arguments that other people have made before you. And refute means just to respond to and to argue and say, no, they're incorrect, or yes, I support this argument and this is why. Claire Bentley, who will be doing it with you guys next year, hopefully, she has a really good bullet point method, and so this is the one that a lot of judges recommend. So they recommend you have about 3 points to your argument, and you should have them bullet pointed, have maybe like a few lines about it and a card about it, and a card is just like evidence evidence, like you copied and pasted some information from a website, you underlined the part that's important, and you tagged them and wrote like who wrote the website or whatever, and then the rest you kind of have to extend. That always makes you look really good if you're making eye contact with the judges and with the other debaters, rather than looking at a sheet of paper and speaking really fast. With that, speech is such an important aspect in it, because like it is 70% on how you speak. If you speak slowly, deliberately, very like importantly, like show that you're passionate about the bill, you're gonna do way better than somebody that speaks a little bit too fast and doesn't change the voice levels if they just talk monotonely like this. And I think it's definitely something to be aware of and to practice. Definitely practice your stuttering. I did not get good at not stuttering until like the very end of my senior year, so it took me about 2 years. But instead of stuttering, pause. Instead of saying like I'm doing, wait and just pause. It makes what you're saying more important, and it makes it sound a lot smoother, like it was intentional. So every speech, no matter what it is 3 minutes long, and there's questioning periods afterwards. So after normal speeches, they give you a minute of questioning time, and so other people will stand up and to ask you a question. After the first app and the first next speech though, you get 2 minute questioning periods, and then after that it's 1 minute questioning periods. So who gets asked the questions? There's this thing called recency and precedence, and the PO is actually the one keeping track of that. They're keeping track of who was the last one to speak, how many questions has this person asked, how many speeches has this person asked, when was the last time they spoke, blah blah blah. So if I was the third one giving a speech on a bill and 2 people stood up, one of them had already asked 4 questions and the other one hadn't asked a single question today, the person that hadn't asked a question will definitely get they'll get precedence, so they'll get to ask their question to me. And it looks good when you ask questions because you'll have something to talk about in your speech, or it'll help you look good in the parliamentarian's eyes because you're actively engaging in the round. Same thing with speeches. If you and somebody else stands up and you've already given 2 speeches and they've only given 1, they're going to go before you because they haven't spoken as much. So you have to be kind of patient. I'm the most impatient person ever, and I still love it, so I would definitely try it out even if you're impatient. There are other little parts of Congress, like there's amendments, where if there's somebody proposes a bill, you can actually propose an amendment to the bill to change this line. I want to change section 3 line 1 for it says to 2 years to make it 3 years something. You can submit that, and then they can actually do speeches on the amendment. We'll give you an opportunity to give more speeches, so that's why a lot of people do that. There are also breaks in between the rounds. Instead of just 1 hour rounds or half-hour rounds like the other events, these rounds go for about 3 hours. So you usually do a morning session and an afternoon session, around 3 to 4 hours in the morning, 3 to 4 hours in the afternoon. You stay with the same room each time. You just switch judges so that they're not seeing the same people twice. What happens is in between the bills in the same round, so in the morning, let's say you're going on hour 2 and your bill just finished, they'll call for maybe a 5-10 minute break. So you do get time, you do get breaks. It's really nice because you can actually leave the room whenever you want when someone's speaking if you have to go to the bathroom, whereas if you're in a different event, they won't let you leave the room. So it's pretty lenient and pretty cool thing to do, and I would, like I said, recommend it. So that's kind of the lowdown on Congress debate, and I want to give you guys a few pointers that I've kind of learned over the years and a few things that I think are beneficial to know. The first one is to make friends with the people in your room. Every other event, everyone's enemies. Like everyone talks bad about the other team. But in Congress, everybody's friends. Like you want to make friends. You go in, joke with somebody next to you, make friends. Because a lot of the times they'll either ask you a softball question that will make you look good, or you can actually help them, ask them a question like, oh, what did she just say? And they'll help you out. Definitely recommend to make as many friends as you can. Follow them on Instagram. It's so much more fun when you have friends in there. It's more fun that way. It is very important to have an opening and a closing. I always get comments on my ballots that I have really good conclusions and really good openings because I usually pull something off of a website and like almost word for word write it the same, or I'll come up with something on my own. But it is really important to have something that stands out and is not the basic canned intro. And what that is fellow representatives, I affirm blah 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 piece of legislation for these main reasons. If you enter with that, that's okay, especially if you're starting out, but once you're getting better and better, you want to start it with something like an introduction that will capture their attention, they will remember at the end of the round. And for example, we were doing a bill and it was called a bill to ensure that the boomers are okay, and so he started with his speech. We always say okay boomer, but we never ask if the boomers are okay or something like that, and like everybody laughed. It got everybody like in a better mood, and the judges even said after, like they remembered it, like they remembered that one line from him and that went into voting. Even though the speech may not have been the best, that one line made him stand out, so when they were going to rank, they were like, they remembered what his was. That's definitely something important to do, as well as concluding it and wrapping it up. Even if it's just 10 seconds, just saying your 3 main points over again. You can close it with a quote, making a good intro, making a good conclusion, and making sure you stand out. Between rounds, so either before lunch when the morning round ends, or sometimes during the breaks when people go to the bathroom or something, the judges will sometimes offer to give critiques. That means you can go up and you can ask, how'd you do? What should I improve on my speech? And I would definitely recommend to do these the first few times. Definitely recommend to go and get those critiques, because like the judges are the ones that are judging you. So if you listen to what they're saying and they're the ones that are giving you the critiques for it, you should probably listen to them, because they're the ones that'll score you. And if they want you to get better, they're going to tell you what to do to get better and to get higher scores. If Miss Tripe likes you, then you'll probably get one of these. And these are called Padfolios, and they're so helpful, especially in Congress. What it is, it's literally just this little binder looking thing, and it just has a few tabs. And what I have in it for mine is I have my little nameplates that say Representative Owen, and then I also have some dockets in here, precedence and recency charts. So just look up precedence and recency chart online and you'll get some really good ones, and it's super helpful, and I would definitely recommend to print those off. There was this one tournament that I went to that I was bored out of my mind, so I just prepared like heck for this. I printed off all of my speeches. Tripe really likes you to print off your speeches instead of doing them online, which I get because it's a lot easier to find and stuff, and you never know if the internet will crash, because that actually happened at one of mine, so it was really hard to get the speeches and it was like really stressful. So it's nice to have them, and then you can write notes on them as you're doing them. I have a few here. What I actually did is I have it also in here. So this is another little Padfolio binder thingy I have, and what I did is I have little labels on all of them for the bill. So this was the order, and so this is the bills. We did one on to make it so like females would be into the draft, labor, automation, things, all of these. And so I'd have my like speeches, the bullets that I have, and a lot of these were actually, this is actually Claire Bentley's, I think. So we do share our evidence, which is really nice. A lot of us will separate the workload for the bills, and we'll each do a little bit of it, because she does these little bullet point work methods, and it's so much easier to change them if necessary. And if you do this, Tripe will be wowed and impressed with you. A lot of times when you're in a tournament, there's people that are sitting next to you that haven't even researched that bill once, and they'll somehow still place because they're researching it in the room. I did that for one, but it was a good speech apparently, and I had wrote it during the bill before. These are the tips on how to research in a round. Is I would definitely look up pros and cons at the end of the sentence. So if it was something like expand the draft to females, look up expand draft to females pro, expand the draft to females con, or you'll look up these pro-con sites. And these are not the most reliable things, but the thing is that you can get ideas from these sites, and then you can kind of form your own ideas. Interesting arguments that you can bring up that you wouldn't necessarily find in an article, because they're people's personal stories. Even if you're doing this before a tournament, if you're preparing, definitely look in those pro-con sites, because they can actually give you very interesting arguments that you would not be able to find anywhere else. Tripe recommends to flow on a paper, but I am a very slow writer, and when I write fast it's scribbling, and I miss out on so much information. So what I do is I actually make a Google Doc, and I'm going to show you, put something right here, and this is what my kind of flow looks like.
I also take notes on what the judges say pertaining to that specific round. They usually say general things, and they also give some tips for some different advice and some different areas to look into for the bills for future tournaments.
So flowing is just taking notes during the debate, and so I actually write the title of the bill and I'll highlight it, and then I write who's speaking app, who's speaking neg, and then the notes under it. And I actually save these because you usually go against the same people in the next tournament, so you can actually know what their arguments are gonna be.
During this round, I made the things in green, the things that I actually looked up during the round in order to refute the other person's argument.
You do the same bills for a couple tournaments rather than just for one tournament. So then you know what people's arguments are going to be, and you're going to have time between the tournaments to actually research them and find good arguments against their points. Pretend you didn't have any information on a speech prepared, but you're very much one-sided on a bill. So if you're really AF, you're going to want to listen to what the neg is saying. Take really good notes on what they're saying, and while the AF is speaking, you Google things to prove why their point is wrong. You can give your whole speech a refutation speech. You can say something like, I'm going to disprove why the negative side is wrong. Probably one of the other most important things to remember is organization. At the beginning of your speech, it's really important to give a roadmap if you can remember, and that's just taking 5 seconds to say, my first point is thus, my second point is this, and my third point is this. This is really important because if you go back and forth, if you give your first point, then your second point, and then you go back to your first point, and then you go to your third, your judges are completely confused, and it lowers your score. It can dock it by almost 2 points, and out of 6 points, that's a lot. My whole first year, that was my big problem. So I'd make sure you give your 2 points or 3 points that you want to talk about, and then you give your refutations afterwards. So something you'd say would be like, first, blah, blah, second, blah, blah. After this, I'm going to be refuting some of the affirmative's argument. minutes. So another little tip that I've been doing is that you'll have a Google Drive folder so that you'll put all of your information in it. So make sure you make a copy of, if you're the one who did the research for something, make sure you have a copy of it in your own drive, and then you also have the shared one too, so that you can edit the one on your own drive, and just in case that one deletes, because it's happened in the past for us and it is so stressful. So make sure you make copies of your research. That is all I can really think about right now. I've attached below a few things, past flows during the round, some of the research I've done, some different speech layouts. Those will all be down below in the description below. I'm so sorry. In Congress, you have to be very dramatic, you have to have very big expressions, and if that's not you, you're gonna have a pretty tough time, but you can always learn if that's something you want to do. Give it a shot, give it a try, and you never know what you'll like, because I thought I was gonna hate this, and I have fallen in love with it because I've made so many close friends. So check out the stuff in the description, because those are the kind of the things that I put up here, and then some other things that I've attached below that I think could be helpful. But I know you guys are gonna do so well this year. You have some great mentors. If you have any questions for how to write really good research like speeches, talk to her. She doesn't know that she's good at it, because she's like, oh, I'm not good at it. She's good at it. She's good at it. Ignore her when she says she doesn't know what she's doing. Definitely ask for help and look up to those other girls. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you for taking your time to try out debate, because it is such a fun thing. Tribe is such a great person. She'll take time to teach you whatever you need to know.
Yay, Tribe. Woohoo!
She'll go above and beyond. She'll do your research for you. It is a really fun classroom, and you'll make some really, really cool friends. Good luck, and have a great season. Bye.